Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Joe Theodore, and thank you so much for joining me today. We need to talk about this extended Venus Cazimi. I've mentioned it only twice in my recent videos. My weekly forecast I released last night, and of course in the monthly, which I encourage you to look at both of those if you haven't watched them already. But we need to discuss this transit specifically, guys, because to be quite honest, I have not seen a Venus Cazimi like this. I don't know if I ever have, to be quite honest. And I did a little bit of tracking backwards, and I didn't want to go too far back in time. But in June of 2020, which was a very intense period of time in America. Of course, that was like still kind of the beginning of COVID, but it was also a very big protest moment, which I'm not going to discuss that at all. But the last Venus Cazimi there was, and it was only a day, it was very short, but Venus was retrograde in Gemini at the time of that. And if we want to sometimes with astrology, looking backwards and seeing what theme might have played out in a prior zodiac sign, right? Or maybe you can examine your life in a time when a similar transit's occurring now. But if you look backwards, you can kind of say that transit is happening now. What happened when I was going through it last time? But June 2020, we had a Venus retrograde. Where with me, sometimes the significations of a planet in retrograde means we're in a review of things. It's a very internal kind of manifestation. So for example, with Mercury retrogrades, we're in a mental review. Things, that involve communication or things that involve any sort of life reviewing or circumstances in our life. Sometimes things just seem to slow down and we need to re-examine some stuff. Now, when Venus was retrograde in June 2020, and there was the last time we had a Cazimi, which another way to put a Cazimi is a Venus-Sun conjunction, or when you really want to get poetic, we can say, Venus is in the heart of the Sun. Being illuminated, being strengthened. The Sun and Venus or whatever planet are being amplified. They're merging and shining in its fullest capacity. Now, in June 2020, during a retrograde, Venus, we were in a tense cycle of, where we didn't feel very connected. There was a lot of people being divided by the, what was going on at the time. The protests, there was a lot of riots. There was a lot of conflict. Okay, so Venus was being separated from her innate frequency, at the time. We weren't having an activated Venus going in the direct motion. We were pulling away from what Venus actually signifies, what Venus actually represents and symbolizes. We were being ripped apart. Our connections to each other were being ripped apart, at that time, depending on how you felt about all of that. But it didn't matter. We were also still dealing with COVID. This whole idea of we can't be together, we can't be connected. And during that pivotal moment with all the protesting and all of the uprise, which again, I'm not speaking from any political lens on that, but it was in the zeitgeist. It is what was happening. That was the facts of the time. We weren't coming together. We weren't in love. We weren't saying at the time as astrologers, oh my God, this is a beautiful time to come together and to birth something new with your communication. No, this was a time for many people to be very activated, to be activists, to be angry, to be loud, because there was such a lack of empathy for a particular event that occurred that triggered this whole thing. And then yes, COVID at the time, everyone was so locked down, and those protests were a big moment for everyone to just say, fuck this, and we're going into the streets, right? So there was a love in a way with Venus's Cazimi at the time. There was a love for humanity. There was a love for, equality in many ways, right? And again, I'm not picking a side here. I don't care if you were pro whatever happened or anti. But the facts is that Venus was retrograde. It had a Cazimi while it was retrograde, and we were being ripped apart, and we were being told we can't be connected versus let's merge and come together and find love. There was a lot of the opposite of that. Well, fast forward to now. We have a multi-day Venus Cazimi. We have a Venus Cazimi that I think started yesterday. I'm recording this on Monday, June 3rd. I believe it started yesterday. And we have this Cazimi running all the way through Thursday into Friday. And this new moon will also be a Cazimi. Incredible. Mercury is freshly into Gemini, adding all the strength of power that Gemini is known for. Jupiter, of course, is expanding all of the efforts and bringing potentially even hope and optimism to whatever communications that we are, involved in. I think there's an overabundance of overstimulation for many of us. I can tell you right now, between yesterday and today, even at the moment of recording this video, I'm feeling already very mentally exhausted. I had a lot going on today. I did a lot. And, just thinking, and even on my morning walk, I had a lot on my mind. My mind was going a mile a minute. But a lot of the things that are on my mind are more ways to come to the world, to come to you guys, to new ideas for teaching things, just very mentally activated. And a lot of those mental activations are, what can I do to provide my gifts and my voice to the world and to you and to whatever the future may bring? And what can I do to really make something, make a difference and to really help people, in a very unique way? That's been very activated with me. And I think Mercury's transit through all of this is going to make that even more amplified. And because I'm a Gemini moon, by the way, and I have my Chiron in Gemini, there's a lot of going on in Gemini for me, guys. Huge. So for me, I have to be careful, because if I get too overstimulated, then, I could short circuit. And I need to be really careful not to short circuit, because, that has caused medical problems in the past for me. I'm not going to get into that, but there's a very deep medical issue that I've always lived with that's very linked into my Gemini story. But on the positive note, this transit, I think, can bring a lot of healing and a lot of beautiful, things to, everything that Gemini represents. But this Cazimi, guys, gorgeous. And I think we can't underestimate enough, or we can't downplay the fact that human connection and connection in any form of, whether that's on the internet, whether that's in groups, whether that's activating, going on dates, whether that's trying a dating app for the next 2 weeks, there's so much going on with love and connection and things we can fall in love with that include things that are very mental, because Gemini is about the mind. The emotions are kind of taking a backseat. The mind is all about, pursuit, analytics. How am I going to be fun and humorous? There's a lot of wit and fun with Gemini. And with this, we can really use this Cazimi to our advantage in putting ourselves out there, connecting with things, connecting with people. And maybe after the 4 years we've had since the last Cazimi in a retrograde cycle, this could be a real moment for us all in that particular area of your life. Because don't forget, wherever Gemini is in your birth chart from 2020, you probably were dealing with some of that shit in your personal life, wherever that was in your life. So, of course, 4 years until now is a long time, sort of. But maybe this is a moment for us to reactivate something from then and to, bring something beautiful to the forefront. Now, I'm not saying something exactly that you went through in 2020, but I'm saying this is a great moment for us to maybe even recall a little bit of that time in our life and to see how far we've come and how many beautiful transits are now occupying Gemini and what benefits we can really gain from this if we use some shamanic astrological magic with our intentions for the new moon, with our intentions for what do we want out of this birthing of the Cazimi, which is an illumination of love and communication, right? Falling in love with our words, falling in love with words, like this could be go try and read some stuff that you're very interested in. Like maybe this is a moment this week where you're going to find something that's very mental and stimulating, that will bring you love, that will make you feel connected. I think this could be an amazing time to read. Also, I think a lot of people, to be honest, might come across spiritual texts, spiritual ideas, and listen to people who are very enlightened, or they think are very knowledgeable and smart in a more metaphysical, spiritual, deep sense, because Jupiter is going to always be there providing us now with a lot of expansion of consciousness, especially when we're dealing with the mercurial, a lot of things might hit the psyche in a very profound way, meeting people that are very profound, people might speak to us that may come off as very profound. So there's so much to look out for this week. There's so much, if you want to actively engage with this energy, you can seek this out, and it'll probably, the universe and synchronicity will bring things back to you. I've told many people to start things, already during the new moon cycle this week. But again, pursuing things that might bring you loving connection, and fun and joy and pleasure. Because we all need to have that in our life, in certain degrees. And there are certain times of the year, certain transits that evolve that are ripe for this moment, So this is a great week, guys. This is an amazing time for Venus to be completely illuminated, completely front and center. This truly is a Venus new moon. Like, forget it, Gemini, great. Mercury rules Gemini. Mercury's in Gemini, awesome. But we're dealing, in my opinion, we're dealing with a very Venusian new moon. So for me, planting seeds in the ground that involve loving connection and communication that is of the loving nature of something that brings you joy and happiness, that can also be very fun potentially, This is where the Gemini story in your life wants to speak to you, And it doesn't matter what house Gemini's in. It could be even one of the darkest houses there are, which is like the 12th house or the 8th. But still, Venus would want to provide some loving illumination in that particular area. There's a lot to explore in those darker houses. And Venus has a lot to teach us even in the darkness, All right, guys. Well, that's all I have for you today. I just wanted to come on and give a brief talk on that. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you are enjoying my content. Please book a reading with me if you would like. All links are down below. And also, if you would like to support my work by purchasing some pre-recorded classes, there are links down below that you can easily, find yourself some more educational content to aid you in your journey. That's all for now, my friends. I will see you next time. Sending you so much love.